Okay, children, move on to the next topic. What are the cause of biodiversity loss? So let us study the causes of loss of biodiversity. Now there are basically four reasons, and we call them four different ways by which the biodiversity is destroyed or it can be destroyed. Number one is the fragmentation. The fragmentation, or it is also called as habitat loss. Habitat loss. Second is the overexploitation. Overexploitation. The third reason is invasion of foreign or we can say alien species. And finally the fourth reason is the co-extinction. And we are going to take this particular topic, cause of the loss of biodiversity, one topic. Then we will take how can we conserve the biodiversity. These are the two main topics which are left. So first one, the fragmentation and habitat loss. It means that when a bigger area is being converted into small fragments, then the organisms which is living in that area, they lose their habitat and they run to different directions, and in doing so they become more vulnerable and they are killed. So for example, there's a bigger forest and that forest has been fragmented or cut into small parts, and some construction of the road or the railway track or some you can say a township is built there, or it is being cut to develop them into crop field. That is done in the Amazon forest. Amazon forest is cut because people there, they want to convert that area into crop field, and that can be fed to the cattle which are being used as food by those people. So there are various reasons of cutting the forest, and when we cut the forest and convert them to small fragment, it leads to habitat loss and ultimately the death of the organism. So that is the first reason, and that is very, very important reason of loss of habitat. Then comes the second, the overexploitation. When we exploit any organism beyond the extent, then it may also lead to its extinction. You know that we get so many useful products from the plants and the animals, but when we start extracting more than what they can provide to us, then it leads to overexploitation, and that ultimately leads to extinction. For example, the passenger pigeon, the sea cow, they have all become extinct because we have started exploiting them. So that is overexploitation. Then comes the invasion of the foreign or alien species. Suppose there is an area, and in that area some other organism which does not belong to that area, non-indigenous variety is introduced intentionally or unintentionally. Then they may take over the indigenous variety, means the variety which belongs to that area. They may take over them and they may kill them and dominate them and establish themselves. So that is we call the invasion of the foreign or the alien species. They gradually, they keep on eliminating the existing species which were living in that area, because the one which have been introduced are more dominating, are more stronger, have more resistance, and so they keep on gradually killing them. And the example, there are various examples. The African catfish has killed the normal catfish. Then there is Nile perch, which was introduced in the Lake Victoria. It has killed the citulate fishes. Then there are plants like Ecornia, Lantana, Parthenium. They all have come in India, and they have established themselves, and now they have become a nuisance. So we have to find out the method how to deal with those kinds of plants, because they are more dominating than the ones which are growing here. So the invasion of the foreign or the alien species also results in the extinction of the existing or the specific species living in that area. Then comes the co-extinction. Co-extinction is when the two species, they become extinct together, because one is so dependent upon the other that they cannot survive without each other. So if one get extinct, it leads to the extinction of the other. and that is the example of the co-extinction. And the yucca and the moth, the fig and the wasp, the pollinators and the flowers, they are, in some cases, they are so specific that one extinction of one may lead into the extinction of the other also. Now, the next topic is the conservation of the biodiversity. But before that, let us discuss why we should conserve biodiversity. Why to conserve biodiversity? What if we do not do it, and why we need to? We have already discussed that the more diverse a particular area is, then the more stable the ecosystem would be. So if the ecosystem is more stable, then all the species will be which are living there will be more successful and would live for a longer duration. So it's our we can say that biodiversity is more important, and thus we want to conserve the biodiversity. But that's not the only reason. There are three specific reasons why we should conserve biodiversity. First is the narrow view. This is our one of them is the narrow view. The second is the broad view, and third one is the moral or the ethical view. Moral or the ethical view. Now, what is narrow view? Narrow view is that we will conserve biodiversity just because they are so useful to us. They provide us medicine, they provide us timber, they provide us resin, they provide us fruit, they provide so many things which we use, and because of them we are able to survive. So that is a very narrow view. Because we want to conserve anything just because they are useful to us. So that is what we call the narrow view. Now the broad view. Broad view is they are not only important to us, but they are important for every living organism present on the earth's surface. It helps in cleaning the environment by converting the carbon dioxide into oxygen. They help in lifting up the water table. They prevent flood. They provide food and the place of living for all the other organisms. So since they are playing a very important role in providing all the basic needs for all the other organisms living on the earth's surface, so we must conserve biodiversity not only for us but for all the other organisms which are there on the earth's surface. So that is a broad view. Then comes the moral and the ethical view. This is also very important. You know that human beings are sharing this planet Earth along with the other organisms. So being the most intelligent organism, it is the moral and the ethical duty of human beings to let all the other organisms share the planet Earth as they have been sharing. So we do not have any right to kill anyone. We do not have the right to make them extinct just because they are not useful to us. So that is it's not only that we should conserve it, but we should also let other organisms who are bound to kill these organisms to prevent them from getting extinct. We ourselves should be very careful, and we should also be careful that others are not doing it. But unfortunately, the human beings are the one who are doing the maximum damage to the ecosystem. So it's for us to internalize, to think, and then take steps for the sustainable development and for the conservation of the biodiversity. Now the last topic is how to conserve biodiversity. What are we doing? So there are various methods. Broadly, they are divided into two categories. One of them is called as the in situ method, and the other is called as the ex situ method. Now, in situ means when the organisms are they are conserved in their natural habitat. When they are conserved in their natural habitat, you are making that particular organism remain where they are, and you are just conserving them, helping them, and preserving them there itself, not disturbing their natural environment. Ex situ, ex means outside. So what are you doing? You are bringing them outside. So when they are conserved outside their habitat, we pick them up, we bring them to some suitable condition, provide them more conducive environment so that they can survive. That is what we call the ex situ. So what comes under in situ? The national parks, the biosphere reserves, and the wildlife sanctuaries, then the sacred groves, and various religious and cultural practice which we follow helps in conserving the organism in their natural habitat. Now come on to the XC2. XC2 can be a zoo, XC2 can be a botanical garden, it can also be the seed banks. So they are the places where we try to bring the animals and provide them good conditions so that they can survive. And all these methods, they work simultaneously for different organisms, and whichever is suitable, accordingly we use them. So you all know that there are around 14 biosphere reserves, there are around 100 plus national parks, and there are 400 plus wildlife sanctuaries. So they are famous. National parks are famous, wildlife sanctuaries are famous, and their hunting and the poaching is completely banned, and there are forest department who is taking care of all these animals, and if they find they are in problem, they just help them. And they also keep a check on any kind of illegal activities which is going on. So the animals are living in their natural environment, we are just observing them, helping them whenever it is needed, and thus helping conserving these animals in their natural habitat. And that's the best method. Then comes the sacred groves. Sacred groves, children, there are certain areas of the forest which are sacred, and we don't disturb them. And there are local bodies, the tribes, the people living near those areas, which make a rule that nobody will disturb the animals and the plant living in that area. So there is Khasi and the Jaitia hills in Meghalaya. There are Aravali hills in Rajasthan. Then there are Western Ghats in Karnataka and Maharashtra. Then there is Bastar and Chanda areas in Madhya Pradesh. So there are so many areas which are considered to be sacred groves, where the forests are conserved not only by the forest department but also the local people who do not allow any intervention of any human beings there. So they are the sacred groves. Then there are certain cultural and the religious practice we all follow. You all know that people, they are quite scared of, cutting the peepal tree and the banyan tree, because we believe that cutting will bring a bad omen to us. So this is another way of getting, these plants conserved, to make people understand that cutting is going to bring some bad luck to you. So what do? They do not do that. There's no scientific reason that it will bring bad omen, but definitely a scientific reason of preserving these plants, because the banyan tree and the peepal tree, both of them, they produce a large amount of oxygen, and that is why they are also being people pray these trees and the plants, because even the tulsi, you must have heard about that people grow tulsi at home because of certain scientific reason, but they are being told that it has to be considered as God, and one should pray them. So there are religious and the cultural practices which we follow in order to preserve the trees, because this was the only way of telling or making people understand earlier. But now with education, with scientific reason, we have come to know why they try to conserve all these organisms, because they play a very important role in maintaining the ecological balance. So that is religious and the cultural practice which we follow. Then comes XC2, where we find that the condition in which the animal is living is not favorable for them. So we pick them up, we bring them to a place where they are fed, where their breeding is done, and all care is being taken so that they can survive and they can produce the next generation. So they are the zoos, they are the botanical gardens, where variety of plant, it can be bryophyte, moss, pteridophyte, gymnosperm, all can be grown in the botanical garden. And botanical garden also have seed banks. Seed banks is a place where the seeds, the stem portion, or the genes, they can be preserved of animals or plants, and whenever we want to grow them, we just take them out and grow them. Whenever we want the eggs and the sperms to fertilize, we make them do so, or we do so in the laboratory condition, and then with the MOET technique, which we have already studied, we can produce the next offspring of the animals. So it's basically the preserving of the seeds at a very very low temperature, so that as and when we require we can use them. So that is the seed bank. So these are the various methods which with which we can conserve our biodiversity. Now everyone is thinking about conserving it, everyone is understanding the importance of biodiversity, but there has to have a collaborative effort from all the countries of the world. So there was a summit called as an Earth Summit, which was held in Rio de Janeiro in 1992, where the countries, they all came together and they they took a pledge that they will conserve the biodiversity. So another follow-up meeting or follow-up summit was held in 2002 in Johannesburg, which is in South Africa, and around 150 plus countries participated in it, and they all took a oath that they will conserve biodiversity and they will switch over to sustainable development, wherein they will use the product, but use the product in such a way so that the products are also left for the next generation. They are not going to consume them all. So sustainable development was one pledge which they took, and the conservation of the biodiversity is another pledge which they took in that particular summit. So with this we have studied what is biodiversity, what are the levels of the biodiversity, what is the importance of biodiversity, why we should conserve biodiversity, what is the cause of destruction of biodiversity, and how it can be conserved. So we have studied every aspect of the biodiversity. So after, just read the chapter and then you bring up your problems and we will discuss it. We will discuss the exercise, and any word or the term which you have not understood, we will discuss that. Thank you.